Right, let's take a look at what's happening now. The United Nations on Wednesday gave a cautious welcome after the Democratic Republic of Congo allowed some anti-government protests to go ahead in the run-up to crucial presidential elections at the end of the year. The demonstrations on Tuesday were seen as a key political barometer in one of the world's most volatile countries. In Kinshasa, thousands of supporters of the opposition Union for Democracy and Social Progress, the UDPS, gathered for the party's first authorised mass rally since September 2016. But police thwarted some gatherings in the east of the country, where we're now joined in studio by a Congolese activist, Sylvain Saluseke, from the youth activist group Lucha. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Peter.
Or should I say bienvenue?
Merci.
All right, so does the idea that the opposition were allowed to hold a rally this past week offer some hope of a change in the climate in the country?
I mean, you might be shocked for us to say that it might have been actually a masquerade. At the same time the rally was happening in Kinshasa, there was a meeting happening in Luanda. And I think we need to see these two together. Next to it, see what we did as well the day after, which is yesterday in Beni. So what I'm going to say of these three events is this. SADC had to put more pressure on the government so we can have elections this year. At the same time, the government has to use a PR campaign to demonstrate that actually they're opening up a space. That's why UDPS was allowed to do that. But at the same time, the following day in Beni, where there have been huge massacres, some of our members, about 42 of them, were arrested just for asking to have peace in the area. So already you can see within less than 48 hours that actually that was pure masquerade to try and demonstrate to people that actually the government is getting into opening up a space, and yet crackdown still continues.
All right, so the Prime Minister has said that the President, Kabila, will not be standing again for elections at the end of the year. The Constitution has not been changed. There were efforts to try and modify it, but that hasn't happened. So as we sit now, there will be a new DRC without Joseph Kabila at the end of the year. Is that not also a welcome?
This is what everybody is looking for. I think since 2016, when we're supposed to have elections and a democratic actually transfer of power, that didn't happen. I think one has to look into the intentions of the government, which they've shown since 2016, as well as what actually is leading us to the elections, which are supposed to happen on 23rd of December. When you look at, for instance, three things. One is the electoral law. It just shows a lot of discrepancies. You get a bigger city like Kinshasa, which has been allocated fewer MPs seats compared to a region like Kivu. Second of all, we needed also to have the representation be aligned with that, which hasn't been done. That's from the law point of view. You get into the technicalities of the CENI itself. Technicality says that we should have actually by now have, for instance, the foreigners, I mean the Congolese in diaspora be registered. We should have already as well more moves in that direction, and yet we have CENI giving us the machine à voter, as we call it, people calling it machine à tricher, which is no way allowed in the constitutions, but also people are actually refuting it. And over and above that, actually I think we should be talking about those soft benchmarks, of which are not linked to the date. Things such as the return of all exiled politicians, allowing all those who have been arrested to walk out of jail. Some of these things haven't been done. So even though there's one side saying, yes, we all going to have elections, the same thing was said in 2016, we don't believe we're going to have elections at this rate.
So you just from sort of technical steps, it doesn't look like you'll meet that deadline. But can you afford not to have these elections, because they've already been delayed and we've seen the consequences of that? And also the environment. You've talked about the arrests, but you know, we saw more than 40 people killed in Maze, slaughtered, macheted, just this last month, and church members being shot for demonstrating in Kinshasa. This is not an environment conducive to elections.
Not at all. You mentioned about people being shot. A youth leader in Kinshasa was shot about almost two months ago. The government hasn't allowed him to be buried yet. You spoke about the massacre that's happening in the Ituri regions. All this shows that there's what we call a backhand to try and to deliberately delays elections. What we think should happen, and everybody wants elections. We want free and fair elections. We don't want elections which will lead into more conflict. Unfortunately, both the President Kabila and his government has shown no willingness for us to have good elections. So I think most of us, youth movement, social movement, we keep maintaining pressure and saying we were hoping SADC would follow suit, that President Kabila, having demonstrated that they've got no willingness to organize elections, he should step down, step aside, allow somebody has to come in. What about Otamkwege? What about Monsignor Mosengo? Those people can walk in to come and run good democratic fair elections.
So what's your message to the African Union, to SADC? I mean, you already have in the country, what, 15,000 troops from the UN, and that's the biggest deployment of troops in a country, though, the size of Western Europe. So it sounds like a lot, but there's such a big area to cover. This
morning I was reading an idiom which says, we keep beating a dead horse. I think we're almost getting in that space where SADC has been involved. South Africa, for instance, has been involved to President Thabo Mbeki to have elections and so forth. We feel that from the EU, SADC, and particularly South Africa, President Ramaphosa came in and spoke of the new wave, so to speak. We would love to see South Africa in particular put more pressure. We would like to see more and more South African youth and South Africa in general to get involved, because there's usually this look up to the DRC saying it's a big void in the middle of the continent. We need your support to give a clear message to President Kabila. You haven't organized elections, young men, step aside, allow others to continue and have a good, proper elections.
All right. Sylvain, unfortunately we've run out of time, but we wish you and the people of the DRC the best of luck, and hopefully these elections can happen sooner rather than later so that you can chart a new way forward.
Thank you, Peter.
Merci pour ton temps.
Merci beaucoup. Pour mon temps. Merci beaucoup, Peter.
Merci. All right, okay, so